1957 to 1960. So in 1957, the USSR created Sputnik 1, which was the first man-made satellite to be put into the Earth's orbit. In 1958, America created the Explorer 1, which was their man-made satellite to be put into the Earth's orbit. In July, President Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958, which created NASA. And NASA hired 7 astronauts in 1959 to be called the Mercury 7. In 1960, the war kept going.
Years 1961 through 1965. In 1961, on April 12th, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin is carried into space on Vostok 1 and is the first human in space. On May 2nd, Alan Shepard commands the Freedom 7 on the first Mercury mission and is the first American in space. On May 25th, President Kennedy accelerates the space program and sets a moon landing as a goal within the decade. In 1962, February 20th, John Glenn orbits the Earth 3 times, becoming the first American in orbit. He later leaves to join politics. In 1963, Russian Valentina Tereshkova becomes the first woman in space. Meanwhile, the American program employs no female astronauts. 1964, V.M. Komarov, K.P. Vesetov, and B.B. Yegorov all fly on Voskhod 1, the first mission to send multiple men into space. In 1965, March 18th, Voskhod 2 carries Pavel Yadyev and Alexei Leonov into orbit, and Leonov performs the first spacewalk. On March 23rd, Gus Grissom and John Young pilot the first 2-man Gemini spacecraft. On June 3rd through the 7th, Edward White exits the craft and performs the first American spacewalk. On December 4th through the 18th, American astronauts Frank Borman and Jim Lovell fly Gemini 7 for 14 days, setting an endurance record. On December 15th through the 16th, Wallace Shira and Thomas Stafford fly the Gemini 6 within a few feet of Borman and Lovell, becoming the first rendezvous in space.
On July 16, 1969, the 5th mandated mission of NASA's program Apollo took off. It wasn't until July 20th, 1969 that it actually landed on the moon. Quoted by Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The moon landing caused the Soviet Union to fall behind in the space race, as it would be the end of the space race between the two superpowers. Thanks to television technology back then, this moment was captured on TV all around the world. And on July 24th, 1969, the Apollo 11th landed in the Pacific Ocean. Thanks to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, we got first place in the space race.
Space race years 1971-1975. Now, the tail end of the space race marks the time for opportunities for more research and exploration. More robots and controlled things were being used instead of sending people out into space. People had wanted to explore deep space more than they had wanted to before. Instead of just making a race for the moon, they decided, why don't we go to Mars? Why don't we go try to fly by Jupiter? Of course, people could not live during these missions. That would probably have killed them at the time, and it would now. But nevertheless, they decided to do that with unmanned exploratory vehicles and things of the sorts. Breaking down a timeline of these events, we have September 24th, 1970, which was the first sample return from the moon, which was by a robotic automatic system, not a person. Although in April of 1971, we did have the first human-crewed space station. That was built by USSR. The Russians also had beaten us when it came to the first impact to Mars, which was obviously not a manned mission. However, it gave them very, very nice samples of a different planet. We had never done that before. No one had ever done that before. In 1972, we had the first commercially operated domestic satellite. That was actually built by Canada. I didn't even know they were here. December 3rd, 1974, we had the first Jupiter flyby. That was by the US. Now, by the end of the space race era, which was around 1975, that's when the US and the Russians kind of decided to join forces. They decided, instead of kind of having this slightly petty race on who should be first to do certain things, they decided to combine both their forces, and they launched the first multinational human-crewed mission in July of 1975, which provided valuable research for everybody involved. This was termed the Apollo-Soyuz Test Project, and it was essentially signified the end of the space race era. NASA would continue to build up more missions, and so would different parts of different